Hi, everyone, my name is Joseph, and today I want to have a discussion about Warhammer 40k Space Marine, the Anniversary Edition, which released September 6, 2011. Well, I believe the Anniversary Edition, that's not the release date for that specific version, that's just the release date for Space Marine 1 in general. Um, Yes, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go with that release date. The anniversary edition, specifically for the Steam version, the PC version, which includes the base game and some DLC as well. That was separate. That was a separate purchase for the console version. But anyways, yeah. So Space Marine, Warhammer 40k Space Marine. So I'm not gonna lie, I did play Space Marine 2 before, and I completed Space Marine 2 before finishing Space Marine 1. With that being said, I did start playing Space Marine 1 on my PS3, but unfortunately, because the controller of my PS3 was kind of on the fritz, and I barely started utilizing Turtle Beach, whatever that it's called. It's back there. I can't reach it, unfortunately, but I showed it in my last video about the Space Marine. That's one of the reasons why I decided to repurchase it. It was on sale for my PC. Both so I could stream it, since on my PS3 I don't have any way to stream. I know there is a possible way to do so, but I'm personally not interested in doing that method. So that was my workaround solution. And I did start playing Space Marine 1 before Space Marine 2 came out. And I did my best to finish it before the release of Space Marine 2, but unfortunately I was not able to do so. So that being said, and that being out of the way, I do have to say, if you have played Space Marine 2, if you feel like you're going to be Space Marined out, I feel like I'm saying that term a lot, Space Marine, but in this instance it makes sense, the name of the title of the game. Don't be concerned about that, because the gameplay between the sequel and the first one, I think, is different enough where it feels unique from each iteration. The second one, and I discussed this a little bit in my other Space Marine 2 video and its review. The second one is very much more a combination of both Gears of War in terms of the gun mechanics, but I would say the first one was more like Gears of War and God of War, and that you had the gun mechanics, and then you also had the fighting mechanics, the utilization of one's weapon. With Space Marine 2, you still do have that, the Gears of War component, but rather than being a God of War, it could still be compared to God of War. Let me rephrase that. The first game is Gears of War and the old God of War trilogy, or I know there was a prequel. So the old God of War saga, the one that came out before Kratos' reboot. While the Space Marine 2 can be likened to Gears of War and God of War post PS4. The God of War Norse mythology version. And if one has played, then you probably know what I'm getting at, because the first God of War saga, you could button mash if you wanted to. It was recommended you didn't do so. It was best to utilize combos and everything like that. But again, you could button mash if one wanted to do so. And with the second God of War, with the second iteration of Kratos within the Norse mythology of God of War, one can button mash if they want to, but there's also a heavy emphasis on being a bit more strategic with how Kratos utilizes his attacks. He moves a bit more slowly, and there's more opportunity to parry and to dodge and to basically finesse with your opponents. Again, finesse as in you lock on and you attack them, you back away, and you go in to attack again. While as for the original iteration of Kratos, you could just, I believe there was a lock on button, but you really didn't need to do that. You could just go sword or swinging, or I guess in this instance, not sword, the Chaos Blade swinging, and one would be good to go. Are they called the Chaos Blades, or am I just putting Warhammer into God of War? Anyways, but yeah, so one is worried about the gameplay being quite similar. Pardon me, everyone. There's noise in the background. Let me go ahead and let that finish. Interesting. I thought I put them all into anyways, so sorry for that distraction. um, so going back to this, yeah, so the gameplay is different enough where one, they won't be feeling burnt out from Space Marine. And also, I want to say that I think the story for Space Marine 1 is easier to follow as well. And that's not meant to be a knockoff for Space Marine 2. But Space Marine 1 is very much just a simple story. I don't mean that in a negative way. About a planet that's being invaded. The Ultramarines are sent in to clean up the situation at hand, and then unfortunately things devolve where further enemy combatants are caught into the arena, because as it turns out they're all betrayed by the Inquisitor, right? And then so the Inquisitor, I forgot his specific name, the Inquisitor. and that's fine. We don't need to know his name. Um, but I guess I should also point out that Mark Strong, it portrays the voice of Titus, and there is a set of three characters. There's Titus, Sidonus, and then we have Leonardos. I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Excuse me. And then we have Lieutenant Mura. I have to say, all these characters, all the cast was quite fun to engage with. Even being betrayed by the Inquisitor, that did catch me off guard a little bit, just because I'm aware about the Inquisitor. The Inquisition, they're very much warp, anti-chaos, and so for an Inquisitor to succumb to chaos, I think that was a cool little twist. And I also appreciated the orc boss as well. He could have just been a source of comic relief. War boss Grimskull. But I love how, even though he kept getting pushed aside, the fight against the war boss was actually a lot of fun, in my opinion. It was a little bit nerve-wracking. I think they did a good job of making him intimidating, even though I would have to say that the 3 times that we saw the war boss, he was constantly losing, but it's not really his fault that he's losing. I mean, if the Imperial Guardsmen, they also were losing at the beginning of the game, but yet they still come off very badass by the end of the game too, right? It's just all about perspective and context and everything like that. And the story ends with, unfortunately, Titus being arrested by the Inquisition. So the Inquisitor who betrays them, pardon me, I don't recall, I think was it Drogon? I think that was the Inquisitor Drogon. They get betrayed by Drogon, and then by the end, another Inquisitor comes over to the planet. And unfortunately, why are they there? Because Leonardo's actually called them, and he called them with concerns. Excuse me, everyone. I think Titus, he might be chaos infected. I think maybe the Inquisition should come down here and make sure everything's a-okay. And I'm not gonna lie, I could see. So I was really worried about Leonardos's betrayal, and I won't say anything about Space Marine 2, but it's just a funny scene to witness. And do I hate Leonardo's character? No, I don't. But I can't understand why people will dislike is even that's a bit of a strong word. I could see Leonardo's perspective, his point of view. He was a new Ultramarine, but he just followed the Codex, the Codex too closely. The Codex Astartes, I believe it's called. And I love how at the end Titus tells him the test of every Ultramarine is how they live their life by the Codex Astartes, and that Leonardo has failed in that regard. And he failed because he essentially just took the wording of it too literal. He did not allow for any actual interpretation. And I like that. I don't probably overthinking this too much, but it is true what Titus is pointing out. If one is not interpreting, that means you're just following the word literally. And is that really living your life by an ideal? Or is that just following orders? Another way of following orders. So even though Titus's character was doing things that was a little bit unorthodox, it also was stated, and I hope you get an answer to this in the future, the fact that he seemed to be able to work with chaos. A lot of the characters kept pointing out that anyone who's able to engage quite easily with chaos, they must be chaos afflicted or very much privy to accepting chaos into their life. But we see through Titus' character that's not very much true, right? He's very much anti-chaos and very much for the Emperor. So what made Titus so special? What's cool about Warhammer, though, is that this might be a plot hole for some, but as someone who has engaged in the lore of Warhammer, I am aware of the fact that the Imperium of Man, they very much don't like real research. There's scientific divisions. It's more like archaeological divisions in that they're just, instead of trying to progress their technology, trying to progress their science, trying to progress their ideas, they're just maintaining what they currently have. So the fact that they don't know why Titus is strong against the warp, it could just be something that the Imperium of Man has not yet researched because it's something they don't want to research. They're very much sets in their ways. Anything that goes counter against their normalcy, tradition, they cast away as being traitorous, a heretic. So even though it could be construed or viewed as a plot hole, I think for me it makes a lot of sense in relation to the context and the setting of Warhammer. The game itself, it took me about 8 hours. I did play on easy mode. I'm not the type who I used to play on normal mode back in the day, sometimes hard mode. But for me, I'm not really an action player kind of individual, so I wanted to enjoy the game and not really be frustrated by it. And I'm glad that I did that because there were a couple instances where it was a little bit challenging in a fun kind of way, not a negative way. So yeah, I did play the game on easy mode. It took me about 8 hours to pass. I'm sure if I played on normal mode, that would have been closer to 9 hours. And if I played on normal mode, that probably would have been for sure 9 hours, maybe close to 10 hours. But it's definitely an 8 to 10 hour game around that time frame. And yeah, I was able to play some multiplayer as well. This was before Space Marine 2 came out. I haven't tried since then, but according to Steam charts, there are players, usually around 400 to 900 players, depending on the day and the time, depending on the day of the week and the time as well. But yeah, so I'm hoping to go ahead and go back and continue playing because again, the gameplay between 1 and 2 is different enough where 1 won't be fooling burnt out. So would I recommend Warhammer Space Marine? Yeah, I really would. I would recommend the PS3 360 or the PC. Well, let me rephrase that. If one just wants to play for the story mode, I think the PS3 and 360 version would do just fine. But if one wants to engage in multiplayer, it might be best to get it on PC just because, and I only say that because I'm not sure about the communities, how big they are in each platform. But the fact that the Steam version, the PC version, has the Anniversary Edition that comes with the cosmetics and the extra DLC, that just makes it obviously a +1, right? So again, to reiterate, I do recommend this game if one wants to play it for the story. Console versions does just fine. If one wants to play for the story and for the multiplayer, then one might be better off getting the PC version. By the way, as long as you want to engage with the lore and the characterization of the story, you can't go wrong with either version. Yeah, so I'd love to know your opinion about the game. Did you guys ever play Space Marine? I remember back then when I would see when I would go to the store, I would see Space Marine 1, and I was always kind of intrigued because I would see Warhammer here and there, like Warhammer Fire Tech or Tech Warrior, whatever it's called, and other Warhammer games, and it always did catch my eye. But I'm not gonna lie, it did look kind of edgy and very not dark, but just very edgy. I would always thought to myself, maybe this game isn't for me. This was before the internet was around, so I would see the case and look at the back, and yeah. So this is Space Marine 3. This was after the internet came out, but I didn't have like a smartphone and stuff like that. So again, I'll just see it in the store shelves, and a couple of times I would always want to pick it up, and maybe rent it and to play it. And I regret not doing so. Maybe if I'd done so all those years, I would have been a Warhammer fan sooner. But it's fine. At least I'm a Warhammer fan now. And I'm able to enjoy Warhammer and its video game format and also its novelization format as well. I just finished reading Horus Rising, which I'll be doing a video for, of course. So again, let me know. Have you ever played? What was your first Warhammer game? Was it Space Marine 1, Space Marine 2, or maybe one of the RTS games? Probably everyone. I'll keep rubbing my nose because my cat, she's her fur is shedding a little bit. So. But yeah, again, thank you everyone so much. Have a great day, and for the Emperor, and may the Emperor give you a joyous day. I'm just joking, obviously, but if one engages in Warhammer 40k, you know why I'm joking like that. Take care, everyone.